Hello, my name's Dan, and I'm one of the folks who helped to set up the National Poo Museum a little while ago, and we're really excited to be taking part in Hullabaloo at home this year, and also to be celebrating the first anniversary of the Isle of Wight getting its international biosphere status. I think that the Poo Museum and its subject matter will fit in very well with the theme of both of them. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about why poo might be important for the environment, and also to invite you to take part in a rather special experiment, but I'll get onto that later. As we know, whether you're an elephant or a wombat or a whale or a woodlouse or whatever, all animals just about produce poo, and that is why the world around us is absolutely covered in poo. Mostly it's harmless. It can be nasty, it can be dangerous, but mostly it's an important part of our environment. If we look around here, for example, you'll see that the earth that the grass grows in, that the trees grow from, that our food crops grow in, is absolutely full of animals, all producing poo, and whether it's worms or beetles or bacteria in the guts of the worms and the beetles, they're all busily breaking down this organic material into soil, and they have a vital function in keeping that soil fertile. But there is also another way in which poo helps to spread life across the planet, and it has done for millions of years. And that's what I would like to tell you about today. So I suppose the most obvious difference between plants and animals is that land-based plants are generally rooted to the ground and they can't move around, whereas individuals, as you see here, are very good at wandering about. And this gives rise to an ancient partnership between the two life forms, because when it comes to mating, plants, or many plants, flowering plants, are reliant often on animals to help them carry pollen from one plant to another plant to fertilize it. Just put you back here. And to do that, they've got to entice the animal to come and explore the plant. And so they will produce often a tasty nectar, which will attract, very often it's insects, but it needn't always be insects. Bees are the most popularly thought of example of that. And the bee will come and drink the nectar, and in the process will get pasted over with the pollen, and then when it visits the next flower, that pollen will get transferred to fertilize the other flower. So it's like a kind of postal system that the plant uses the animals. And it just turns out that there is a parallel sort of story going on when it comes to dispersing those fertilized seeds, which can be all sorts of shapes and sizes. Plants use all sorts of different strategies for dispersing their seeds. Some use the wind, like dandelions we're familiar with. Some have enormous floating seeds that can travel vast distances. Coconuts are a good example of that. Others they give their seeds a kind of velcro so that they'll stick to animals. Others have special seed pods that explode with great force. There's a tree nicknamed the dynamite tree, with huge sort of nuts which explode at a speed of about 160 miles an hour. But there is one other strategy which the National Poo Museum would naturally be interested in, and that is where a plant wraps up its seeds in a special casing, a very tasty food parcel that entices animals to come and eat those seeds. And then those seeds are then in the animal's gut. And the animal then flies or walks or swims or slithers away. And when the seeds have passed all the way through the animal's intestines, they're then deposited in a handy pile of fertilizer, ready to start a new life in a new location. And this is called endozookery. Endozookery means, endo means inside, and zoo is animal, so it means inside an animal, which is what is the method that the plants use. They put their seeds inside animals, which then transport them. And there's a brilliant chapter all about that in this book called The Incredible Journey of Plants by Stefano Mancuso, an Italian author, who's written this really wonderful book all about the lives of plants and how they spread around the globe. So we just walked round to the Poo Museum gardens because it's a little bit quieter here. Anyway, Mancuso was explaining that plants which create fruits, these edible packages with which we're all familiar, they invest lots of energy in producing these fruits, and they're doing this as part of an ancient exchange with animals, because the animals who eat the fruits will then transport the plant seeds away, which is enormously valuable for a plant, because if its seeds were just to fall at its feet, and they'd be trying to grow in a very difficult environment underneath the other plant. Okay, some seeds can't survive the passage through an animal's gut, but other seeds, many seeds actually germinate even better once they've been on this sticky journey, and many of these relationships between plants and animals, these endozookerous relationships, have been studied. So it turns out that slugs are brilliant at spreading the spores of mosses. Avocados, it seems, they partnered up with something like a mastodon or a mammoth, these ancient megafauna which have now disappeared. So the avocado no longer has its natural plant partner. And all sorts of different plants have different animal partners. And I guess you're now wondering, well, where are humans in this whole story? Humans eat lots of fruits. They travel around the world perhaps more than any other species. And this, it turns out, it seems to be a very under-researched area of science. And so this is why we need your help. So Hullabaloo at home, and this first birthday of the Isle of Wight's biosphere status seemed like the perfect opportunity for us to launch the National Poo Museum's Human Endozookery project, and we hope that you'll be part of it. Citizen science has never been as simple as this, because all you need is some of your favourite fruit, a newspaper. What else do you need? Let's see. A tin of sweet corn will come in handy, some compost and a flower pot. I'm sure most people can lay their hands on those things. And the method is this, that to start with, you eat a portion of your sweet corn, which is going to go through your gut. Now that is not going to grow because that's been cooked, of course, but being bright yellow and hard to digest, it serves as a brilliant marker to tell when that meal has arrived at your bottom end. So having eaten the sweet corn, the next stage is to eat the fruit that you've chosen, seeds and all, and try not to chew up the seeds, otherwise again they won't grow. So the list of fruits that we've chosen for this project are blueberries, blackberries, red or white currants, raspberries, kiwi fruit, passion fruit, grapes, but of course these have to be the kind with seeds. Citrus can be oranges, grapefruit, lemons, limes if you're brave. Also tomatoes, apples and pears. Now, there are two reasons for not chewing up the seeds. One is because they won't grow, and the whole project would be a bit pointless then. But the other reason is that apples and pears, anyway, certain seeds contain tiny quantities of a substance called amygdalin, which, when it gets into your gut, can produce cyanide. Now, you'd have to eat an enormous amount of apples or pears whole in order to get any problems from this. But so eating an entire apple core or something will be fine. But maybe don't start saving the pips and then just eating jars full of these seeds. We're suggesting that you keep to this list of fruits because the seeds they have are small and quite easy to swallow. So don't try and swallow the seed of an apricot or something like that, because you'll probably just choke and die. And certainly don't tackle a mango or an avocado unless you're a mastodon or a mammoth. The next bit is probably the most unpleasant stage of this scientific project, and that's because this is where you have to collect your own poo. You have to poo on a newspaper or maybe a garden spade, and watch out for that yellow sweet corn, because that will tell you that you've got the poo with the seeds in. When you get that, that's where the flower pot comes in. So take your flower pot, put some compost in the bottom of it, then transfer the poo onto that, cover it with a bit more compost, and then just wait, maybe watering occasionally, and see if anything sprouts out of it. If it does, we would be really interested to know about it, and we'd love you to send us a photograph of the plant that grows, and also to tell us which fruit it was that you ate beforehand. We can then create a gallery of these plants which have passed through the human gut and successfully made a new life. Good luck and happy gardening!